Welcome back, everybody. It is Wins Above Fantasy, episode 224. I'm Van Burnett, joined as always by Steve Giswelli. Little under the weather today, but that won't stop us from looking at people who are on the mend in the second half. Kind of miniature breakouts here, Steve. Talking about post All-Star break, some of the hottest players. Do we believe in it? Have there been any changes? Going to be a fantastic show. We got about six hitters, six pitchers to get through. So quite a bit of names, but exciting topic. And we talk about it on a lot of shows, but I feel like this time of year, it's easy for some of these breakouts to fly under the radar. It's also something that throughout the offseason, you'll hear a lot about second half, who did this, who did that. I know, Steve, you had some excellent articles back in the writing heyday on Pitcher List of second half breakouts. So it's fun to kind of be on it mid wave and assess if we think it's real. I don't know about you, but looking at this rundown, it's kind of a agonizing list in a way because some of these guys are ones that, in the shallow enough leagues you've moved on from at times, and other ones where you're just like, man, why didn't I add him when he was on the wire? Stuff like that. So pretty big range of uh, player archetypes, if you will, from like guys that are kind of free agent eligible to household names. So it's going to be a fun one. How's it going out there?
Yeah, it's good. This is a fun one. It's difficult, right? Because the like you said on those articles, it was a focus, and you highlight some things, but also the more that you divide samples into, and we're looking at a pretty small sample. I think most players from the All Star break have had around 100 at bats, 110 at bats on the high end. So it's not much. Like we would be kind of you know. Towards the end of April-ish, right?
Yeah.
Maybe, at that point, if we're looking at in the middle of the season, we would be taking those with a grain of salt. So not to poo-poo this whole topic before we even start, but there's still some interesting things going on, and it would be relevant to bring up the point that we mentioned about how things go under the radar at this point in the season, just because, even though a guy's on a month-long heater, their overall slash line can still look pretty bad if they were dreadful up until the All-Star break, which a few of these guys were. Um,
Yeah.
that being said, I think there's some interesting things going on, that guys getting hot, adjustments being made. We're trying to identify some things that we can believe in, and put some more stock in than to just a few hot weeks. And I think for the most part, we're hitting on some pretty big names. So I think there is some either actionable things to pocket for next season, or potential guys that we targeted trade deadlines, or which are either past or rapidly approaching. Like it's pretty much now in most leagues. So
Yep.
um, fun topic, and excited to break down some guys who have been really really good since the All Star break.
Well, jumping into a guy that you were big on from the get go this season, or at least preseason, is Jackson Merrill. I feel like he was all over our March rundown list from episode to episode. And I like the pick as well, Steve, but you were right there. And here we are three years in on Merrill's promising career. He's just 23 years old, but he's kind of quickly, at least for me, getting a reputation as like a tough player to nail down just because that rookie year, the plate discipline was so good. Then last year, he looked promising, like the hit tool was still there and the power was there, but the speed had vanished. And then with his early season struggles, the only thing that was there was the speed. So it kind of reminds me of, to a lesser extent in a way, some of those early years for Bryce Harper, where it's like productive in the end, but with a bunch of different shapes and sizes. But as for the actual splits before the All Star game or All Star break, Merrill had a 219 average with a 628 slug or 628 OPS. You would have wished for a 628 slug. He did have 10 homers. And 19 steals, but it was with a 219 batting average. So I don't know about you, Steve, but he was dropped in my home league. I actually added him. And then if you're
Nice.
wondering what led to the breakout in the second half, It was me dropping him on July 5th when I had somebody coming
What
back
a
from.
roller coaster you just sent me on.
Oh my gosh. Yes, indeed. So, and my brother of all people picked him up, and I'll probably be squaring off against him in the playoffs. But post All-Star break, again, in the 98 plate appearances, 340 batting average, 1038 OPS, has almost matched that homer total with 9, which is just a crazy, crazy pace. And now the steals have come down, but there's only been, 23 hits that weren't home runs.
Yeah,
So
you,
it's
you,
like
you
it's
can't
expected.
you can't steal first when you're jogging around the bases, right? Or second when you're jogging around the bases, right?
So talk to me about Merrill, Steve, because I think he is one that I feel like the industry wants to get behind, but like I said, it's been a roller coaster. It's tough to make sense of how to value him in the offseason. But first, let's start with this breakout. Is it a hot streak, or do you think there's something substantial that changed behind the scenes?
This is a perfect example. It's like you're looking at the numbers. It's like, yeah, the power and speed is there, but what is the slash line? 713 OPS, like kind of a bust, right? Um, and it would go to show that you missed a lot with what's been going on. He's basically been the hottest player in baseball for like 5 or 6 weeks now. I think if you split that out to like July 1st, it's even more impressive. We're just using a date of the 16th, I believe it was, when players came back after the All Star break. That was the first game that Thursday. But this is the Merrill that I was excited about, right? And why I had so many shares in the preseason. There was a lot of similarities with what he did last year, even with through the injuries and without the speed. I was like, okay, the lack of steals can be explained by 2 leg injuries, and I think there was a head injury in there as well. Um, and everything else there was pretty much in line with what we expected, at least under the hood, and maybe just a little bit lack of ever finding that zone like he's in now. And there you would have something similar to um, his 2024 season, right? This stretch looks like 2024 just with some more encouraging things under the hood. It's a 20% barrel rate, the 19% strikeout rate, which is kind of what I loved about the profile, right? It's a guy that makes a good amount of contact. Yeah, there's not much walks in this game. It's only a 3% walk rate since the All Star break, but he makes up for it with good quality contact, good bat to ball skills, and power and speed. This looks like an amplified version, at least in the power. And a few of the things that I've been looking at here over the last, just doing some prep is just breaking down, bat speed by month, batted ball data by month, and the bat speed is relatively in line. August is actually his low. August is the lowest his bat speed has been, but it's all negligible. It's by like point 0.1 mile an hour. But where you do see improvements is the squared up on contact or on contact and the blast per contact. Those are by far the highest that he's had this month. And I know that's more descriptive, but that just tells me that he's in the zone. He's found, his groove and is doing as much damage as he can. And, the barrel rate backs it up. The hard hit rate backs it up. It is, a 54% hard hit rate in the second half compared to a 45% hard hit rate, which, the 45% hard hit rate is good. The 54% hard hit rate is elite. So if Merrill could even keep some of those gains, I think that you have a guy that, you know, was being drafted in like the second and third round heading into 2025. It's easy to project that when guys like this have this good a season when they're that young. So it also goes to show how quickly the luster can wear off. But that being said,
Yeah.
it looks like Merrill is going to salvage this season, and if he can, somehow get up to like a 760 OPS or something like that. I know that would be, you would have to stay hot for the next few weeks here, but the power speed numbers are going to inflate the price no matter where that triple slash ends up at this year.
Yeah. Yeah, through the end of June, he was at 8 home runs and batting below 220. So
How,
it
how many
yeah,
how many steals did he have at that point? Like
at that
it
point
wasn't.
he had 18 steals. So it was
Yeah, like
almost, I mean, not you don't want to say empty steals because 8 homers isn't nothing by the end of June, but
yeah,
like he was
he
just
wasn't
looking
dropped in
like
like
a whole different
15
guy.
team leagues, but hey, I had tons of shares of him heading in. in redraft leagues. I have none now. I traded him
Yeah,
um, in May in one league, and then I dropped him in a shallower league, and he sat out there like you know probably through close to the All Star break in the shallower league. So
yeah.
props to those that picked him up.
What's uh what's kind of crazy about the Jackson Merrill experience this year is in the month of March, he was ADP 70 rounding up.
Yes,
Um, I think even with this up and down, his stock has gone up, right? Going in the next year,
kind of.
especially with this
Yeah, that's what I'm
loud
saying with the
past month.
power
Yeah,
speed, right? Like
right.
I'm just pulling up. I'm going to pull up the player rater right now and see just where he's at.
While you're pulling
Um,
that up, I think it's a good point that just like last year, he only showed the power, and people were just wondering, like, is he going to have speed in his game? He had a couple of those injuries last year, so there was a narrative there, but it's a whole different ballgame when I mean he's pretty much on pace for 30 steal, 25 homer a year. I think the average people would buy the over on 250 just given the pedigree and everything. But yeah, go ahead if you got the player rater pulled
where do
up.
you? I want your guess. Where do you think Jackson Merrill is on the Fangraphs player rater?
Oh,
12
first
team 5x5.
5 by 5.
Yep.
I would say probably like 42.
Pretty good. 48. That's nice, dude. Good job there.
Very nice. But yeah, I
It's
mean,
the homer and steals, if especially in a 5x5, right? Like those
yeah,
are
like you
two of the
talk about
categories.
right. You talk about how much we're getting, and he's got 61 runs. That's not nothing.
Yeah.
Like we're
Yeah.
talking about a guy. Well, it's a terrible comparison. I was just gonna say last week's show we're talking about CJ Abrams is like a first rounder. That batting average, there's a big 45
Sure.
point jump, but the power speed is like in the
Is it out
same
of the
breath.
question that Merrill has the year um next year that CJ Abrams has this year?
Absolutely not. No, I
Right.
think that's the fantasy
That's what
upside.
we're
Yeah, yeah,
projecting him for. That's what he was trending for after his first season as whatever, a 20-year-old, right?
right. Yeah.
21-year-old.
Ironically, you could flip the homers and steals because Abrams's line looks more like Merrill's, and Merrill's looks
Yeah.
more like Abrams this year, which is
Yeah.
funny. So, all right. So that is Jackson Merrill. Great discussion there. Moving to another one that it kind of drafted in a similar range in a way of like a bounce back, but Austin Riley was going at pick 57. And I'm sure some of the managers, listeners out there are just ready to turn the dial because Riley has just been such a frustrating experience, especially when he didn't do much last year. So you're just kind of buying that this would be a big bounce back. But he's starting to right the ship a little bit, Steve. So before the All Star break, he did have 9 homers, so it was not nothing. But just a 16 or 617 OPS and the 207 batting average is what made him almost unrosterable in kind of standard 12 team leagues. And since the All Star break, 280 average and OPS up to 845. He's got 5 homers in that 90 plate appearance sample. And what's encouraging is that he's now hitting the ball harder. And it seems like, obviously figuring out the hit tool, but the strikeout rate is still hanging pretty high, like north of 30%. So, for a guy that it's just like you really thought he did away with those plate discipline concerns to this degree early on in his career. Last year was a 29 rounding up strikeout rate, and this year it's at 31% and kind of sitting despite this mini breakout. What are your thoughts here on Riley?
Yeah, I'm really focused on the quality of contact here with Riley. Like that was something that you even through the stretches that he's had the last 2-3 years, I think 2 years ago now he had an abysmal start, started to heat up, got hit by a pitch, missed the rest of the season, right? Then never really got off the schneid. Last year, there were, I think, some injuries here and there, but you always saw quality contact metrics, barrel rate, swing speed to sort of believe in, and that's what kept his ADP elevated, right? What did you say his ADP was heading into this year?
58 in the month of
Yeah,
March.
so, like, there was really not much of a discount, especially coming from a guy that, hit just 16 home runs, had a 737 OPS, and his OPS started with the 7 the year before that too. I know that was the year that, he got hot and then got hurt. it started to fade a bit this year, right? Like the quality of contact that was always there was in question. It seems like it's back since the second half started. The 18%, the 19% barrel rate is, I think, sixth in the league since the All Star break, and the hard hit rate at 56% is fifth in the league. So he's crushing the ball again. Yeah, the strikeout rate is there, but honestly, I'd take that trade if that's what you know uh, Austin Riley is going forward from here. Sure, maybe we're not going to get those peak 275, 280 seasons with the 22% strikeout rate and 35 homers, but I could see him being a good source of home runs and a passable average going forward based on the quality contact metrics and swing speed improvements that he's had over the last few weeks. The swing speeds are back to being elite as far as the bat speed goes. In the last 2 months, those have been his best months by bat speed.
This guy
So
seems like candidate number 1 for Driveline in the offseason because the hard part assessing him is, like, why can't we get those prime years? Like, he's
yeah,
just 29 years old. He's still got elite bat speed.
he should not have fallen off this fast. Yeah,
No, he shouldn't have. So, yeah, I just one other kind of fun fact on Riley because I was curious. I remember I had him in, I think it was 2023 because I was remembering a season where it was like, wake up, do something meme.
he's
And
always
then,
started slow. Yeah,
yes, and in 2023, it was a 775 OPS, and then second half was 969.
yeah.
And then in 2021 as well, that second half was a 976 OPS. So, like, historically, with 1 or 2 years of exceptions, like, he tends to, heat up when the weather does. He's one of those. So, yeah, that's Riley there. Another interesting one. Ceddanne Rafaela is, well, for one, Steve, he was one of my chalkboard fades, if I
Mm.
recall. So that's going to be a fun recap show near the end of the season. But Rafaela has, historically been kind of ups and downs. This year, in the first half, it was a 281 average with a 761 OPS. The second half so far, at least post All-Star break, an 885 OPS. So up about 125 points on the OPS, almost matched his homer total. So 7 since the All-Star break, and he had 8 leading up to it.
Homer tonight. I don't know if that was inclusive
Oh,
of
did
that.
he?
Yeah,
So that he
yeah,
might have
yeah,
matched it. Yeah.
yeah.
Um, and yeah, he's been active on the base paths as well. So honestly, when you look at the whole body of work, 16 homers, 16 steals, 288, like this is going to be an L for me on the player rater. If you've still got that tab pulled up, I would love to hear where Rafaela was because preseason, I think he was going in like 120 or something like that. 118, yeah.
He is 38th on the player rater. Yeah,
Man.
has that second outfield eligibility. I don't know if he's played that many games in at second this year. I know his defense is so good that, yeah, it's just been center field this year. He's one of the best center fielders. So it's a shame he'll lose that next year. But
Yeah.
that being said, he's still been uh, a great player and even better in recent weeks, right? I would say that was until the All Star break, it was trending that was going to be a hit on the chalkboard, right? Like there was
Yeah.
not, you know,
Pretty slow. I mean, the hit tool was
yeah,
better
the
than
the hit tool
I
was fine, yes, but
ju
the power and
yeah,
speed
right.
wasn't there. Um,
What's his, has he cleaned up his plate discipline a little? I guess it's a little bit better
No,
from
no. I mean, it's he's cleaned it up by taking a different approach, and that's maybe what's unlocked him. He's basically swinging at everything.
okay.
Um, you know, perhaps that's the method of making contact before you swing and miss at 3 pitches, right? Um,
Mhm.
the quality contacts are still not great, but they're better. In the second half, he's increased his heart rate by 6%, his barrel rate by 3%. That basically to around league average or a little bit worse than league average on both. But that being said, a guy with his profile that makes contact, puts the ball in play despite the pretty good strikeout rate. It's 20%. That's 59th percentile. There's, you know, pull air in his game. The green monster is a perfect place for him, seemingly, because you could take advantage of the wall and the short porch in left field as a righty. And that's essentially where all of his home runs are.
Yeah.
So he's kind of made perfectly for Fenway Park, and provides great defense. Isn't going to be in the lineup every day, and hits the balls on the right angle. That's like his best stats gas slider. So
Even so, like the 335 BABIP, like don't get me wrong, and I need to
y-
eat the humble pie that this was a miss, but next year, I mean, right now his just season stat line looks
wh-
better than Merrill's on paper. You
yeah,
know what I mean?
when
It's like,
what this
no way.
tells me, this tells me that this is like a streaky player. Like that's what this is. Like there are going to be months where he is, one of the best fantasy players and has 8 homers and 8 steals in a month while hitting 320. Then there's going to be 2 months where he is not rosterable.
Mhm.
That's what this tells me. I know this is stats we can believe in, but there are some improvements there, but I still think it is a streaky player by nature. This is like Pico Armstrong light, like
Yeah.
Timu Pico Armstrong. The defense is just as good, if not, I would say he's probably the second best center fielder other than PCA, but I don't know if I believe in, he doesn't have the quality of contact that PCA has.
Yeah. I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head that if you're looking for month over month changes this season, you're kind of like, oh, what's really changed? The swing percent in April was 49%, and
Yeah,
in
that's
August it's 70%.
yeah.
Like, I mean, it is a
He's just being
huge change.
aggressive, and hey,
That's a
those are
big
sometimes
change.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's a big,
Even
big
though
change.
it's not like, oh, slider go burr, like that's a big approach change, and it's working for him.
Yep, exactly. So I think because of that, his walk rate, which isn't much to begin with, but April, May was hovering around 6%.
Hmm.
It's dropped all the way down to 2%. So you're not going to walk at all. But I mean,
Hmm.
for a 5x5, and certainly if he does have a hit tool that's closer to 270 than 250, which is to be determined. But if it does, then that's not the worst thing to never be walking and just have the green monster, like you said. So yeah, I think it's let's put a pin in Raphael and see where it's at the end of the season. But if nothing else, whether or not we buy it or not, I think that aggressive swing approach is a great call and something to watch. So we got about 3 more hitters to get through, and then 5 or 6 pitchers. But we are going to take our first ad break, and we'll be right back after this. Okay, so Steve, from Merrill to another guy that I feel like has been on the Steve Giswelli team of the year, whether or not it's a triumph or I guess it's just like a word cloud, right? Like who have we talked
Yeah,
about the
yeah.
most? And the industry's right there too. Fernando Tatis Jr. has been another one that's puzzling, another one that it's like, well, he's active on the base paths at least. And we were waiting and waiting. I think it was only 3 or 4 shows ago that we were saying, is it more likely that he gets to 20 homers or he doesn't even get to double digits? He has eclipsed the double digits. He is running hot right now. Post All-Star break, that OPS has jumped from 714 up to 963. He's got 6 homers, more than the 5 he had going into All-Star break. And much like Merrill, there's been a lot less opportunity to run on the base paths. So maybe it's something in San Diego that they're just telling their guys like, hey, if you're struggling, go run like crazy. And then once you start hitting, chill out a little bit. But now all of a sudden it looks pretty good for Tatis, just different than what we expected. It might end up looking like a season line of 18 homers, 280 batting average, 35 steals, like very interesting just body of work compared to what we've seen throughout his career. But the question is what's changed, Steve? I feel like this one is one that has some pretty interesting stuff under the surface.
Yeah, this is a really interesting one. And it stems from a tweet from Statcast and Baseball's own Mike Petriello. And he tweeted out yesterday. One day we'll find out the full story of why Tatis closed up his stance so much in the first 2 months of the season. And then, he just noted that he's had a 136 WRC plus since June 1st and highlighted that in April, his stance angle, so how close he was to the place, was 10 degrees open. So he's really close. So think about his front foot being close to the plate. And you're sort of parallel with the pitcher or perpendicular to the pitcher. Before the pitcher starts his windup, right?
Mhm, mhm.
You're perpendicular to him. It was 15 degrees open in May, and then since then it's been you know 36 degrees open, 34 degrees open, which is in line with basically what he's been in 2025 since they started tracking this. And obviously the results have followed, right? It's also his best month by bat speed, but that's never been in question. And then more importantly, like the attack angle in June and July is way up um, compared to the previous month. The ideal attack angle is way up. Like he was at 51% in May, 51% in April. It's 70% in August, 61% in June, in July, and that's percentage of swings between 5 and 20 degree angle at the angle of attack angle at the angle of contact. So that getting loft on the ball, like taking advantage of having that world class bat speed, right? It's totally different. So um, you know really cool that he's made that adjustment. Wonder why, like, why,
That's bizarre.
seems so simple, right? It's obviously not, but it's just crazy how tinkering like that. And like, remember like last April he had like 11 home runs, then ditched the leg kick. Like it seems like it's been 2 years of tinkering, and maybe something's unlocked. And what do you know? After swearing him off after the first 2 months and trading for him in April as a buy low, I'm right back in, and we'll be drafting Tatis, and not letting it fall past me in the second round again.
Yep,
Same old story, but the changes have been impressive, and the results have followed. So, yeah. And now the question is like, is he going to get to 20 home runs, and is it going to look like you know?
right.
Um, somewhat similar to what you drafted him for. I mean, I still think that like when people take Tatis, they want, you know, 30 homers. They want they want the 30-30, right? Like
Yeah. But
but
we're almost, I mean, it's a top, if he keeps the batting average up, I mean, it would be
yes.
top 3 of his 7-year career, so
Yes.
that's been a
Sure.
plus for
Sure.
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 It's probably
Um
gonna be a high watermark on steals. He's 6 away from his all-time high of
yeah.
32.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
that's fair.
but yeah, I agree. I mean, I almost was ready to ask the question, is he a second rounder? But I think it's no doubt. I mean, he was
I
going
think
at the
so. Yeah.
turn at
Yeah.
1-2, so I think the question is, does
This
he become another turn pick,
yeah.
or, does he
I
kinda
mean,
drift in the
if he
mid
finishes
second round?
with 20 homers and goes on a binge the last 7 weeks here, 8 weeks here, you know, yes, if it kinda cools off and he finishes with 16 homers, 270, like, yeah, maybe there'll be a discount. But hey, if these changes stick, it looks like he's figured it out finally
Yeah.
after so much waiting.
And this is almost enough. I mean, as long as he doesn't bottom out, I feel like, a lifetime all helium team, like, Tatis is one that, like, everyone gets excited about. Like,
Yeah.
it's a tiebreaker just because he's a freak of nature with just, like, the physical skills and tools, and he's
Mhm.
such a fun player to watch. So, yeah, I think, very, very invested in what he does from here on in, but I think definitely it seems like mid-second round, if not earlier. So that's Tatis. Going over to Wilyer Abreu, who is kind of in that same little Red Sox scrappy pack with Rafaela. And Abreu, unlike Rafaela, had that red hot start to the season. If you remember, he was like one of the top ranked guys in most leagues after the
Mhm.
first few weeks. And everybody was like, is it real? And I don't think that, we were uh, blind to the fact that, he wasn't going to be like being discussed as a second rounder like Tatis. But man, 21 homers, 255 average, 8 steals on the season. And since All-Star break, the average has dropped a little bit, but an 896 OPS. Was it something like I got to check his game log, Steve, but I'm pretty sure he was like on a back to back to back
Yeah,
homers.
3 or 4 day homer streak for sure. I mean, he's got 9. He leads the league. He's tied with Olson and Merrill. Although I think
Yeah, he
Olson
had
homered again
4.
tonight. So
He had
yeah.
4 in 3 games. So yeah, he was red hot, and then homered tonight as well. Abreu did. So yeah, talk to me about what you see under the hood here, and maybe give us some context for from a draft standpoint, because he was a guy that was going at that pitcher depth stage of the draft last year of like pick 200. Um, so does he kind of move up to a more of a viable, like an OF2 next year?
I think so. Like there's this is like 2 years of him doing this now, right? Like it's a 15% barrel rate, 50% hard hit rate, like that's elite stuff. And it's with a strikeout rate of just 20%. So, for me at least that's like the ideal profile.
Mhm.
Um there's been consistent improvements across the board from that. He's gone from 28% to 24% last year, down to 20% overall this year too. He doesn't platoon, right? That was the risk I think heading into um last year. He's actually hit lefties better um this season, at least from an average perspective. Like he does have 5 home runs, but he's hit 326 versus lefties. He has 154 plate appearances. Like that was my biggest concern. It's like, okay, is this like another Kerry Carpenter, where a guy like super useful, but
Right.
I think it's like, him and Dominic Anzone, like they've kind of overcome that wart and have earned the playing time and performed, right? Like that's we talk about it all the time. Like, oh, just give him some at bats against lefty, give him some bats against lefties. If they're gonna hit 090, like they're not gonna last, no matter how much we want that to, and no matter how well they hit righties. But Abreu's held his own. Um, and it's a 172 BABIP in the second half. So like that's why the average isn't there. It's just pretty poor luck on
Yeah.
what is good contact, right? His ex Woba is fifth in the second half. Tatis and Merrill are 1-2 there, as far as ex Woba goes, in the second half. So better than Alvarez, which is pretty crazy. So there's a lot to like, and I think that despite that cool period where he really wasn't doing much in between April and July, Abreu's kind of gonna establish himself, like you said, as an OF2. I think
Yeah, I was just thinking
this
about
offseason.
like the prototypical OF2. And what do you think about this comp? Is Wilyer Abreu uh taking the role of Ian Happ as like the outfielder that's constantly, I mean, their profiles kind of remind me of each other, where they're probably going to end up with like 25 homers, 8 steals, 250, 260 batting average, like prime Hap. I mean, I guess Abreu's barrel rate, Hap had a couple years in there, was really high, but I feel like that's the comp that comes to mind, and maybe the range that he'll
I was
fall.
gonna say, who do you have next year? Wilyer Abreu or Riley Green?
Ooh, see, to me, that's where is the I guess I would personally lean toward Abreu, because I'm a fan of the strikeouts being in check, and usually when I'm looking at OF2, I'm more at like trying to get a glue piece. It's just I'm not going to
Mhm.
drop them in July. Um, but I guess I wonder from a just a profile standpoint, like I guess why I like the Hap comparison is it always seemed like there was a bit of a low ceiling, where I feel like Riley Green, we saw the 36 homers last year. We believed in the hit tool with like a 288 season in there. What do you think on that?
I
Is that
mean, I've been a Riley Green stan, as long as anybody. It is a difficult call. all the quality of contact metrics say, Riley Green's better. Not that Abreu's aren't great, but Riley clears him in pretty much everything as far as quality contact. It's funny they have the exact same X slug, exact same XBA. Riley Green has a better X WOBA, but all of the actual stats are better. That being said, Riley Green swings and misses a lot more. He strikes out a lot more, and he walks a lot more. Which not that that's a negative, but uh, in standard 5x5 leagues, that's not going to help you. And Abreu is a better fielder too. Not that that's too much of a consideration, but it's like, okay, you're taking comparable Bauer rates and choosing between the guy that has more hard hit, a better bat speed, probably more believable Bauer rate because of that, right? Um,
And
or
Fenway and the team around him,
yeah,
and he's
yep,
hitting 3rd in the line. Like, I mean,
yeah,
Abreu
yeah.
hitting
That's also
3rd
yeah,
is kinda, you know,
yeah,
you
yeah.
just
That's
don't
the
really picture him being, like, the guy in that
I
lineup,
I
right?
mean, the strikeout rate is a big difference. Riley Green is striking out 27% of the time. He struck out consistently at that level, was at 31% last year, and Wilyer Abreu is at 20% and has improved year over year. So it's close. It's a lot closer than I thought it would be. Heading into the season or even like before the stretch, it would have been no brainer, Riley Green, and I
Yeah.
feel like he's having a pretty unlucky year as far as like, the home run to fly ball rate is by far the lowest of his career. Um,
Yeah.
let me see what the bat.
It's a
Yeah, the
good it's a
BABIP's
good it's a
yeah.
good, this or that, for
Mhm,
sure. It's a closer one than Hap. I was more saying,
mm,
like, I feel like Hap was cemented in the draft order at that range, and now it's like, he's on the wrong side of 30. Maybe that's the type of player that
mhm.
Abreu will land at, but I think upside is a valid question, though. Like, if he keeps running, 30-14 or something isn't out of the question, and that would be a real head turner if he can get there. So that's Abreu. Rounding out last hitter quick because this one's kind of to a lesser extent, but a shout out to Griffin Conine, outfielder for the Marlins, who has been, I mean, he is a straight platoon guy for the most part.
Mhm.
Um, Kind of a righty masher. He's got a sweet lefty swing. I was actually cracking up. Well, let me get to the stats first. So pre All Star, 266 average, 5 homers, 869 OPS. So kind of mashing righties all season. And then since the All Star break, 7 homers compared to the 5 before and a 921 OPS. And I don't know if it was his most recent. Did he homer tonight? No, he had 2 let's see,
Yesterday or the day before, yeah.
Sunday, I think, and
Okay.
we're recording Tuesday night, but, the second one was I don't know if you saw it, Steve, a 39 mile per hour eephus pitch that he
Yeah,
just
yeah.
tomahawked in the live call, the commentator's, like, laughing as he's calling it. It
Yeah.
cracked me up. I rewound it, like, 3 times. But yeah, Griffin Conine, let's hear your thoughts here, Steve. I feel like these platoon ones are tough to really get
Yeah.
behind. They always burn us, but it's still worth noting that this dude is crushing the baseball right now.
Yeah, the barrel rate and hard hit rate are impressive. That being said,
16%. Yeah,
yeah,
16% barrel rate.
yeah, the strikeout rate though is also a concern. I think this is like, okay, like this is a Kerry Carpenter mold. Like I don't mean that. Like I love Kerry Carpenter. Everyone who's listening to this show has known my love for Kerry Carpenter. I mean that as a compliment. And have the Marlins given him any? I'm surprised, like considering that they've fallen out of it a bit. It would be interesting to see if they just yeah, it's not zero. He's had 28 plate appearances versus lefties. It has not gone well. Doesn't have a homer. Is at 192. Um, and I'm just looking for like his strikeout rate. Yeah, he's actually struck out less versus lefties. But he walks 12% of the time versus righties. So
Mhm.
has a better approach. It seems just attacking righties. Maybe it comes. He is 29, so that experiment may be put to rest. That being said, like it looks like we found like a good daily league righty masher that's going to be useful when he has a bunch of
Righties on
matchups
the
versus
slate.
versus righties on a week. He'll be used for in those NFBC formats, and I wouldn't be surprised with how hot he's going if he goes on a heater here towards the end of the season.
Yeah. No, I think it's a good name and good to be on notice for, especially in some deeper leagues as well. So that rounds out the hitters. We got pitchers on the slate, but we're going to take our second ad break and we'll be right back after this. All right. So, Steve, jumping over to the pitching side, Nolan McLean is the first one that we're looking at, who is, kind of the one of the buzzier names, if we're using that word, in that range that we like so much for pitchers. But it's almost like he's been overshadowed, right? I mean, Eury, who could be on this list, has completely broken out. He was going before him, and then after him was that batch of like Schlittler, Chase Burns, Mizorowski, that guy. But McLean he's kind of an interesting one, and I'm wondering, you're closer to it, even geographically, but we haven't talked about McLean a ton on the show. And for how good his stuff is, the swing and miss stuff isn't always as eye popping as you would expect.
Mm-hmm.
But post All-Star break, we have seen him with 31 Ks over 23 innings, a 137 whip, not great, 347 ERA. But just want to hear you talk about McLean, because other than, I think it was just one bad outing, right? Where, the Guardians tagged him for 5 earned runs. And it's McLean I think he's on the mound tonight and has been decent. Let's see, 6 innings, 3 Ks against the Braves. So kind of what I was mentioning, that like, other than some spot starts here where it's like, okay, he pops off for 9 strikeouts, 10 strikeouts. Every now and then there's these ones that are a little bit underwhelming for how good this stuff is.
Mm-hmm.
But what are your thoughts on the 25-year-old who should have a lot of buzz again in the offseason?
I'm sure there are some expected strikeout rates, but based on stuff and what it looks like, McLean has to be like a biggest underperformer as far as actual strikeouts go compared to what the stuff looks like. Um, I know that Rates and Barrels did I think a decent breakdown on him um, over the last few weeks. And this is a funny thing to say about a guy that has a 29% strikeout rate
It's a
on
good
the
point. I guess
year.
you could almost point to Chase, like his chase
Yeah,
rate is
yeah,
like 24th
exactly.
percentile and his strikeout
And
rate is
he
86,
only has
which
a
is wild.
10% swing strike rate, right? So that
Right.
like you would kind of like I think a quick rule of thumb is, you double the swing strike rate and like add 2 or 3%, and that's like your expected strikeout rate. Like you would think that a guy with his stuff, the way it moves, the way it's pitching ninja and gift would have, one of the highest swing strike rates um in the league. I think there's more called strikes.
Yes.
Yeah,
He is 80th percentile on called strikes,
yeah, yeah,
and 55th percentile on swinging strike rate.
yeah. So it's interesting that there
Oh,
needs
I'm
to
sorry.
be.
Real quick, correction there. I was just looking
Sorry.
at sinkers on the pitcher
Okay.
list base. Across the arsenal, he is 89th percentile on called strikes plus
Yep.
whiffs, but
Hmm.
41st on swing strike rate.
Hmm.
So the breakout
Yeah.
on
Do
called
do the
strike is
math there.
probably
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
number 1 in the league. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, with a sinker like that, that he's going to get back doors and freeze guys with sinkers, but despite the fact of the movement, like maybe it's such a loopy sweeper, right? That it seems obvious, and it's easy to take and doesn't get the swings and chases and 2 strike counts. Like he doesn't really have it. And he doesn't really throw it, but there needs to be like a gyro slider sort of, you know, that maybe or like a bullet slider or a death ball, something like that that is tight and he can get chases with. And I think that'll unlock him and like take him to ace them. Like I think that's in the future here, and it's just one tweak away, and then McLean can truly, truly break out. Funny to say for a guy that has been really good this year. Um, but I would say, like, it's somehow mildly disappointing. Like, I would have thought that he could take that Cam Slittler leap. And he's been great. It just hasn't been that level. I do think it's potentially in him.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. And I think just from what he's shown us compared to the 48 innings last year to do it at volume, like now the
Yeah.
season line is
Mhm.
134 innings, 158 Ks, 341 ERA, and a 114 whip. I think you give him another, what, 4 or 5 starts. Um, by the end of the year, you're probably looking at McLean's stock just going up from
Yeah.
the pick 92 that we got him at last year, because he's just
Mhm.
going to be another trendy pick to just break out and put it all together with the swing and miss stuff. So, and that's a scary thought, by the way. Like if he's already at
Yeah,
28.5
yeah.
when he
Yeah,
starts
if you
getting
can
more
unlock
whips.
Chase, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so that's McLean. Next up, we got David Peterson, former teammate of McLean, but on the move to the Cubs. And the Cubs have seemed to find some interesting tweaks here with Peterson, who you have to remember is just 30 years old. It feels like he's just
Yeah,
such
been
a
around
kind
forever,
of
right?
trusted veteran, been around forever. Yeah. But with the Cubs, had to shout out our guy Lance Brozdowski and his excellent write-ups and Substack. But he talked about how there's been some slight usage changes with the new ball club, which is always something to watch. But the bigger change has been getting more cut from his four-seamer, where it's actually less arm side movement. And it was pretty substantial. Like, in the 4 starts that he's had with the Cubs, that just seeing that go down and down. And the swing and strike rate on that pitch has jumped from 5 to 13%. So has kind of unlocked something there. And the results are following for the most part with the pre All-Star break, a 6.45 ERA, a 164 whip, post All-Star break, a 152 ERA in those 4 starts, and a 101 whip. Still just 18 strikeouts over the 22 and 2/3 or 23 and 2/3 innings. But an interesting arm here, right, Steve? Like a lefty who
Mhm.
gets ground balls, has good extension. Like we've seen Peterson be fantasy viable, and now he's definitely. Let me just double check. I know he's rostered in a lot of leagues, but I don't think it's necessarily everywhere compared to some of the guys we're talking about. Yeah, 20%. So,
Yeah, he's available.
thoughts on Peterson?
Yeah, really interesting. I'm glad you brought up that point about getting more cut on the fastball. That's like the number one thing pitchers do. Like they cut their fastball, and someone probably identified it that Peterson could va- uh, you um, thrive from adding more cut in that to his fastball in that organization. That's exactly what happened. The Cubs have increased his sinker usage. They've decreased that fastball usage a little bit. They've decreased the curveball, increased the changeup. Like maybe this could be sort of a swatchy type of lefty that outperforms the peripherals and metrics and improves overall, despite not having standout stuff. Like Peterson definitely has that mold. Um, and I could see why the Cubs wanted him and identified him as someone that could fill a rotation spot because they desperately needed that help.
Mhm.
I'm trying to pull up the splits on
While you
when.
while you pull that up, I would
Yeah.
say knowing the podcast comes out on Thursday, there's a little bit of
Hmm.
Christopher Nolan time jumps here, but as you guys are listening to this, Peterson will have thrown the night before at the Nationals. If that was a good looking start and he's available, to me, that's the one. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Where it's like that roster rate should jump from 20% up to 50 or 60, because at that point it'd be 5 starts in a row looking great.
Yeah, the strikeout rate hasn't jumped. It's better. It's still middling at 19%, but the walk rate has decreased. And who knows? Like that's something that maybe isn't as obvious as like, oh, they found this pitch and has so much more stuff, and look at all these strikeouts that jumped. It's like okay, maybe the Cubs know that when you this type of pitcher add cuts to a fastball, it's easier to control and you have more command of it, and therefore, the walk rate could potentially go down. So, looks like a usable starter and streamer, especially on days when the wind's blowing in Wrigley, when it gets colder a little bit in September and stuff like that. Definitely a guy to keep an eye on.
Okay, next one we maybe don't spend as much time
Yeah,
on because we've talked about Roki Sasaki for several shows
yeah,
and for good reason. But to give him his flowers, 4 starts since the All-Star break, a 188 whip, a 1.00 I'm sorry, 188 ERA, a 1.00 whip, and over a strikeout an inning in 24. Um, my question, Steve, because we've talked about how he's increased velocity, it hasn't held at that crazy start where it was like sitting 100, but it's held at a rate that's been higher than the start of the season. What I thought was interesting is more spin almost across all his pitches and less walks. So, like, you're getting faster, nastier, and more control. How far does the hype train go on Roki? Because we've seen some good starts, but like it feels like we're one away or maybe a loud postseason away from his name being like the pitcher around pick 100. Maybe I mean I don't know. It's tough to say if he'll be in that batch that we always get so excited about. We've called it the honey pot. But what are your thoughts on what we're seeing? If you want to add anything, and just how high does he go?
yeah. I could really, and maybe it's because I'm biased and I've always liked Sasaki and you know followed
So
him since
yeah,
his days in Japan,
hard not
and
to
to
cheer for him with the
hard not to
struggles
root
that he
for him,
faced. I know he's a
and
Dodger.
and think that there is have profited or enjoyed a lot of these guys that come over from Japan and think they're all underrated relative to when they come over and things like that.
Huge adjustment. Yeah, it's like
Yeah,
you gotta tip your hat. It's
and he's different because he came over so young, as opposed to like guys like Yamamoto and even like
true.
Senga when he had success early on. It was a different story with him, but like you're getting more than the strikeout per inning. It looks like he's unlocked something with the two different types of splitters, the splitter and the forkball. He's added a slider. Like it's hard not to be excited. And if there are just a few more starts here, the hype train I think could get out of control and he could be sort of drafted in that Cam Schlittler, Nolan McLean, Mizrowski area pretty easily. The and that's so crazy to say considering um how bad it was
Oh yeah.
earlier in the season, right?
Yeah. I mean, not only was he was a long shot anyway. I mean, his
Yeah.
March ADP was 311, but then he was given up on, and for good reason. When you looked at in the
Yeah, they
month
were
of April, a
his
7.23 ERA, and in the month of uh well, I guess in the past month, a 188 ERA. Like, what a wild roller
yeah.
coaster it's been for Sasaki.
I mean, did he there was times where he didn't have, like, a rotation spot, or the rotation spot was very much in question, right?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And yeah, now it looks secured and he's pitching with
Yeah,
confidence. I think a lot is going to be made of the postseason we get
yeah,
with Sasaki. So
yeah,
yeah, and I mean, he dialed it in last year from the bullpen at least. So moving on to another name that is probably going to be in that range, if not pricier, and it's Troy Melton with the Tigers, who it's tough to really make too much of splits because he's just been excellent
yeah,
in the 13 starts all year that we've seen him. Man, for the amount we talked about him, Steve, the fact that I missed him in my home league, I'm kicking
yeah,
myself. But yeah, 13 starts, 80 innings, a 146 ERA, 69 strikeouts, so a little bit under the innings pitched, but then a .90 whip. Yeah, in terms of how he landed on this show, it's been even better since the All-Star break. 5 starts, 0.88 ERA and a 104 whip. Let's talk about Troy Melton. I mean, what do we make? Obviously, he's a guy who's got velo. He's got multiple pitches. He's when you look at like the movement profiles, it looks really, really impressive on the breaking stuff. And yeah, he gets whiffs on like 4 or 5 pitches. So he seems like he's just got so many weapons and big frame, good extension. I guess maybe a question would just be volume. I don't know how much he got in the minors coming into
Yeah,
this year.
he's been injured a bit. Yeah, there are some volume concerns. And Lance, we were talking about him. Lance has loved him since last year. Lance Brosdowski, um, the highest inning total I'm seeing is 100 innings.
In
Yeah, in
2024, yeah.
2024. So
2025, he had
injuries have been a part of the
75.
story. Yeah,
He's at 90, about 92 innings between
yeah,
minors and majors
yeah.
this year.
So should set his career high. And yeah, the lack of whips. I think that was much more of an earlier when he first came back. Was like, okay, maybe this isn't a bit sustainable. The swing and miss has really been on the rise over the last few starts. I think that's coincided with him leaning more on the cutter, adding a few ticks of velocity as he's come back from injury. But there's really not much not to like. I think it's only just the the injury concern, then that's there with every pitcher, right? And I guess it's just a little bit more with him, just considering he's been um, injured so recently. That being said, though, I'm a big fan of Melton, and I'm not saying this is why they traded Scooble, but I think the Tigers, they being the Tigers, believe they have a top three starter at the very least here in Melton,
Mhm.
and the results and stuff look like it so far.
Here's a fun this or that. Sean Burke, Troy Melton, both big
Ooh.
pitchers, got
Oh, man, you're gonna
several
make me choose
pitches,
there? You're gonna make
several
me
whiffs.
choose there? I love both those guys.
I know, me too. I think just like thinking out loud on this because they are similar. I think I lean Sean Burke because for one, the volume floor, but then he's also kind of unlocked the K's throughout the season in the way that we want or expect Milton to. But I feel like those two are kind of, I wouldn't be shocked if they're in a similar spot, range in the draft. Um, but it does feel like with the volume concerns, maybe it'll be a little bit deeper, like maybe around the
Yeah.
120 to 145
Yeah,
range or
and
something.
Melton's like Sierra's 406. Like there's holes to poke in here.
Okay.
Right. His left on base percentage is 94%. He's got a 196 BABIP. But I mean, that also just means that he won't have a 146 ERA. I forget who we were talking about last year with that. It's like, we were like, yeah, all these everyone's bringing up all this left on base stuff and how lucky he's been, but you project him for a 3.2 ERA, 3.4 ERA, which is still really good. I forget who that was this
Yeah.
offseason,
I'm
but
scared to bring up that it might have been Trevor Rogers, who we got to talk about in a second.
maybe. Yeah, I think it actually was. That being said, that's what I would expect for Melton, and honestly, I would project the strikeout rate to improve because that's what he's shown at the minors and has the corresponding 12% swing strike rate. Like the whiffs are there. Um, it's an exciting profile. To answer your question, I'll take the other side of the coin. I'll go Melton there, and we can have our first 2027 head to head.
Well, we're all over it because I'm looking back and forth at their pitcher list pages, which are sweet, by the way. And Sean Burke is 19th on the list, and Melton is 20th on the list.
Amazing, amazing.
For what it's worth, Burke has him on a lot of things, but Melton's actually PLV likes Melton a little bit more, or
A
at
little
least
bit
is
more.
like
Yeah,
PLA.
yeah.
So, yeah, we're doing all right at this. All right, so keeping it rolling. Gosh, what a segue. It's all fallen in place. Trevor Rogers is the next pitcher that we're talking about. And yeah, talk about another roller coaster. He was one that coming into this year, exactly what you said, Steve. We were like, okay, last year he had a 181 ERA. It's got to come back to reality, but how far? And the season line is a 421, which is sobering, but pre All-Star break, that was a 448. Post All-Star break in 5 starts, it's been a 338 ERA. So that's a lot more like it with the 106 whip, 33 strikeouts and 29 in the third. So looking much, much better for Rogers. Was he, let me just double check. I want to make sure he wasn't going tonight. I thought, no,
Yeah, I think he
last night.
was.
Last night he
Oh, it
went
was last night. It was last
at
night.
the Twins, and it
Yeah,
wasn't great, like,
it
he
wasn't
had some
great. It was
command
fine. Yeah.
issues, yeah, but it was fine.
Yeah.
So let's talk about this one might require a little bit of, digging here. I don't
Yeah.
have in front of me, but I'll look quick, Steve, if there's any, like, major usage changes. It looks like
He's
he's dropped the sinker throughout the year a little bit,
Yeah,
but
drop the sinker, increase the sweeper. That's actually in August his second most used pitch. It's only been one start, so that really could be matchup dependent and
Mhm.
I think we downplay. It's like sometimes these teams are good versus changeup, so we don't throw them. Sometimes these guys are bad versus sweepers, so we throw them.
Yeah.
Um,
Velocity's been a
yeah.
story for sure. In April, the fastball velocity was at 90 and change, and it's been at 93
Mhm.
in August,
Yeah,
so I mean,
dude.
that's a huge thing to point
That's the answer, man, with him. Like, when Rogers is at 94, he is a really good pitcher.
because that's
When he is at
lefty
when
94.
yes,
Yeah,
when he is at 92, 91, he is not good. Like,
yeah.
I think it's as simple as that. Like, sometimes, I know we have all this stuff and
Right.
advanced metrics and everything like that. Um, but with Rogers, like, we have a track record. When he has the velocity and he's healthy, he's good. That's going back to even like his Marlin days. So, um,
Mhm. Might be a pretty good
I'll
buy
leave it
low.
there.
It might be a pretty good buy low, honestly,
Yeah, like, dude,
because
like, I was going to the bank with that one, um, for a chalkboard pick, but like it's gonna be close. Like, he's been really, really good basically since like June.
yeah. Yeah, and I just think, the overall line will look very ho-hum by the end of the season, but I think for a guy that's still 28 years old, who last year showed 18 starts of, looking otherworldly,
Mhm.
um, we never fully bought that, but I think I definitely, and like you said, it's probably as simple as velo, so just, like, see where it's at in spring and everything, but I think I buy a lot closer to what we're seeing with the 3.38 ERA than the 4.48. So that's Trevor Rogers. Last one we'll wrap up with a guy we have not spent a ton of time talking about since we were all about Brandon Pfaadt years back, Steve.
Yeah.
And I know you've been better about not just doing the thing where we fully lose sight of him, but I mentally, along with several D-backs pitchers, have just been like, not interested. Like, it's not enough strikeouts here. I don't know what I'm excited about. But certainly the ratios since the All-Star break are worth getting excited about, with a 1.13 ERA, and a 1.00 WHIP in 5 starts. 32 innings, 13 strikeouts. So that's where I'm like, is there anything even actually here? Can you point to any, like, notable changes? What are you seeing under the hood with Fod?
Yeah, and increase in using the changeup,
Okay.
ditching the sinker a bit, ditching the cutter, curveball. Like, there's a really good sweeper here, a decent fastball, and it's just kind of been trying to figure out how to make all the other pieces work. Um, and it's working now, but it's like at the sacrifice of whiffs, right? Um, and I think his issue was just that he was absolutely, like, he dominated righties, even like when he came up and was really good as a big prospect and had a decent year. Um, in 2023, right? 2024, I think he started off good, then finished poorly, but still was decent by strikeouts and walks. I know this is like, we're supposed to believe in this stuff and these changes. Yeah, the results are working, but the fact that it's a 20% whiff rate, a 15% strikeout rate. Yeah, the command is better, the walks are better, getting ground balls, but unless there's another tweak here that he could pair this with at least average whiffs, I'm gonna have a hard time buying into it.
Yeah, it's interesting too. Like, you go to his pitch list page, like, PLV kind of likes him,
Yeah,
which is just bizarre for a
it's the
guy that's, like,
slider, right?
almost
It's the
dead
sweeper that's
last.
like one of the best pitches, right? That just by like stuff, right?
Let me see. Yeah, so PLV. It looks like his changeup they
His
like
changeup,
is like
okay,
an
interesting,
84, but the
interesting.
swing and
Yeah,
strike rate isn't
by
that
stuff,
good.
it's
Y-
slider, yeah.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, it just seems like he's one that, he's still young and he came up with such a pedigree, but for 27-year-old pitcher, it feels like he's one you'd get pretty excited about if there was ever like major buzz of like
Mhm.
adding a whiff pitch
Yeah,
basically,
yeah,
because then he could put it all together. But that's a big if, right?
yeah,
In the meantime, just be on notice that Pfaadt is doing the productive, like old school baseball,
yeah.
not necessarily translating fully to fantasy. So nice. Well, that rounds out the list of pitchers. So Nolan McLean, David Peterson, Roki Sasaki, Troy Melton, Trevor Rogers, Brandon Pfaadt. And then on the hitter side, we had Jackson Merrill, Austin Riley, Ceddanne Rafaela, Tatis Jr., Wilyer Abreu, Griffin Conine. Couple of favorites from you, Steve, before we wrap?
Yeah, it'd be easiest to say like Tatis, like, okay, he's back to his old stance, things like that. But
Sure.
I'm gonna go out on a limb. I'm gonna say Austin Riley, I think is looking back. I believe in the quality contact that's there.
Okay.
Um,
That's kind of
maybe
hot
it's
takey. I like it.
yeah, yeah,
Just
maybe
because
it's not
just because
the
the plate discipline. Yeah.
yeah, I think there's a new expectation that we have to set, and there's probably gonna be some fluctuation with that batting average, but I'll believe in the 18% barrel rate, 19% barrel rate, and 53%, 56% hard hit rate. Same with Merrill too. I think it's been a long time coming, and it looks like he's finally doing what we expected him to do with good quality contact, great plate, great strikeout rates, and good power speed.
I would say my favorite one is an honorable mention we haven't even talked about, which is
Ooh,
Eury Perez, because
yeah,
he's
he should have been on this list.
driving my
That's a
team
miss.
to
Dude,
possibly a bye week in my
I
home
dro
league.
I,
You traded him?
no, I dropped him. I dropped
Oh,
him.
man. Yeah, yeah.
I didn't have ILs. I didn't have the IL space, and the initial timeline for that
I
was like
know it was brutal, and then he beat it,
4 to
but yeah.
6 weeks,
But yeah,
And
pre
honestly,
All-Star break.
the fact that yeah, he only missed like 2 or 3 weeks, right? Like he barely
Yeah,
missed.
before the rehab assignment.
Yeah,
But yeah, it was
yeah,
supposed to be like a multi-month thing, and it was
yeah,
like 6
yeah.
weeks and he's back,
And like
but
honestly, the video that came out of when it made me drop him
mm,
more easily, right?
there were
I
some
probably shouldn't have
questionable
reacted like that,
reports
but
too.
like
Yeah.
yeah, but, like, did you see the video of when he got hurt? Like, he was warming up in the dugout, like, did a squat and, like, couldn't get up. Like, I was like,
Oh,
"I'm
I did
done with this
not.
guy."
That's
Like, that was
brutal. Yeah.
exactly like, it was so
But Yuri, I
laughable.
mean,
Yeah.
to quickly hit on it, Yuri in 5 starts since he's come back, a 2.32 ERA, a 1.00 WHIP, and the biggest thing is no homers after he had coughed
Dude,
up 13 in
he's
his
had
first
such a
16
homer
starts.
problem. Yeah, let's just do it. Let's dig
Let's
in.
do it,
What
man. It's a
yeah,
bonus. It's an encore. It's an
yeah.
encore.
I
So
love
yeah,
it. I love it.
Yuri throughout the season. Let's see if there's any major tweaks. Oh yeah, the sinker use
Uh-huh.
has jacked
Uh-huh.
up to his most
Yep,
thrown
that's it.
pitch.
That's exactly what he's unlocked.
Yep, and
That's
let's see, the sinker. I mean, you'd say that it has yet to give up a homer, but none of them have in that time. But yeah, it's been a really good pitch for him throughout the month of July, like a 231 batting average against. But uh, I think with the oh yeah, this is juicy. I mean, we talk about it with the Lance Lynn types or the
yeah.
guys that have like multiple fastballs. Check
Dude,
this out. The four seamer in April had a 24.6% whiff rate. Then in May, a 23% whiff rate. That we're talking about the four seamer. In June, a 20% whiff rate. Then he ramps up the sinker to his
mhm,
most thrown pitch. And in July, his four seamer had a
yeah,
42% whiff rate. In
dude,
August, 67. So it's
a
just like
a
completely unlocked
and,
his
like,
his
all you
weapon.
saw was these bombs that he was giving up off of these, like, 99, 101-mile-an-hour fastballs, like, "What's going on?" It's like, "Okay, now there's a sinker, don't know what to expect, which hard pitch it is." Boom, now he's like, "This is it." Yuri is now, like, an ace, like, that's it. That was a tweak that he needed. Sometimes it's that simple, and, dude, honestly, the fact that he did stretch and hurt himself his groin or
Blessing in
whatever warming
disguise.
up is probably the best thing that's going to happen for his career because he clearly just went in, tinkered with a sinker, became more comfortable with it and became his primary pitch and unlocked him, right? Like that was it. Like he had the fastball, he had the stuff. His locations even weren't even that bad, right? Like
People are
yeah, the
just
four
sitting on
seamer
it.
caught a little bit more of the plate, but like, you know, eh, eh, you can get away with that when you have that good of stuff, and the hitters are a little bit, you know, off on what to expect now
Yep.
because the sinker is there. So, and it looks like I mean, if you look at the spray charts of like where he locates these pitches, like it looks like the sinker is like down and away on the corner, right? Or down and in
Yep.
on the corner. Um, it looks like he has great command of it too, right?
Yep.
So
He'd
it's a
given
big
up
deal.
5 homers on the four-seamer in April and May, has not
Yeah.
given up
Yeah.
a homer on it since, so,
Crazy.
yeah, it's a
Crazy.
great call.
Crazy.
All right, well, that's the encore, and that wraps us up, guys. Thank you for hanging in. Episode, 224, we'll be back next week, but till then, Steve, between now and then, I'll know if I locked up that buy slot, which would be
Nice.
huge, but,
Nice.
yeah, fun show. I'm already feeling better, just from talking baseball. That's what it's all about, so
Love it.
we'll be back next week, but till then, thanks for talking baseball with us, guys.
All right. Thanks, guys.